moving Binghamton University into the Johnson City Village is an extraordinarily important project for Binghamton University. People who know the story of Johnson City know that at one time it was the home of the Endicott Johnson Shoe Factory, where 20,000 people worked and lived, close enough to walk to work almost every day. What's there now is just a very small shadow of what was there previously. And our goal, hopefully, is to return it to something similar to what George Johnson had created. Not sure it will be exactly the same. We won't be making shoes there. We probably won't have 20,000 employees walking to work every day, but we will have had an improvement in the economic values of properties, economic values of homes and families, and the prosperity of the region in general. Poverty rates in Johnson City are very high, near record heights in New York State, and there's a sense of lack of enthusiasm and optimism there. Starting the pharmacy school 3 years ago with a pledge from Governor Cuomo to construct a $60 million building on Corliss Avenue was the start of it. But that was just one piece. We knew that that would not be enough to transform an entire village. So the next project, which was funded by the Upstate Revitalization Initiative, is a $25 million project to renovate 48 Corliss.
With the when President Stenger arrived on campus, it became a priority for the campus to get involved in community development. About 5 years ago on Christmas Eve, we received a phone call at 2 o'clock in the afternoon when there were very few people even left in the building. And it was then our state senator, Tom Libous, who was calling because he had had a conversation with the governor, who was interested in assisting the university to have an impact on the community, and wanted to know of ways that we could do that effectively.
Well, there's a lot of loitering and littering. I often have to tell people to move out from in front of the place because they're smoking, or I probably pick up 3-4 times a day the litter, even though there's garbages out there. We haven't had any crime within the store from people, but I have customers that are a little afraid to come downtown Johnson City.
So what do you think are the most positive things?
We're going to open up this whole downtown like it used to be. Hopefully have shops, more cafes, educate people coming through, wanting to shop. I think it's really going to do the area so much good.
I've seen it both ways here.
Yeah.
And I think with the university coming, it's going to make a lot of changes here, because I think a lot of the property owners here are waiting for grants to fix up buildings, and I'm sure they're going to put students in here, and I'm sure rents will go up, and I'm sure some of the people aren't going to be able to afford it, and it'll be moving, and I think the neighborhood will improve in certain ways and so forth.
Landlords aren't being cited, or at least whatever they're being cited for is not meaningful. I can give you a couple of interesting stories. We had one of our Tuesday night congregation guests comes for the dinner and worship on Tuesday night, complained to his landlord about dripping and problems with his ceiling and so on. And one night, or one afternoon or evening, he's in his apartment and the whole ceiling collapsed, and it was sewage from the toilet upstairs.
What do you see as the positive impacts of having it, your neighbor here? What do you see as the positive impacts?
Well, clearly it's going to bring some money and business and to the community. And I know some of it's going to take a long time, but one imagines certainly that there will be commercial operations coming as well, and also the university folks have suggested that's a high likelihood. They can't promise anything, but with a pharmacy school, there's likely to be research and other development that comes into the community. And of course, that will help tax bases. That's not all non-for-profit stuff. So we imagine that'll help the tax base. But it'll also upgrade housing and fix up the neighborhoods in a lot of positive ways.
Well, I think some of the advantages are that it will make the neighborhood a much better place. As far as currently on Johnson City, it's a lot of vacancies, and I think with the school coming that they would start building like better stores, better eateries for people to shop at and eat at. I think those are some of the good advantages. It'll give the area more police protection. Well, in terms of how they do in downtown Binghamton, where they're building up all of the condominiums and the very beautiful, expensive housing, it will chase a lot of people, low-income people, out of the area, because the low-income people would not be able to afford to live here anymore. So that's one of my main concerns, that eventually low-income families will not be able to live here. A lot of times they equivalent low-income families to people that commit crimes, and that's not always the case.
And what we ask people to think about is both the positive, but also the concerning or potential negatives that might happen. But let's start with the positive. Do you think this will have an impact on the neighborhood and beyond?
Absolutely. You already see it in the low-income affordable housing that's being built right behind our building. Mm-hmm. We've seen our property value go up as well. So I think there's a lot of benefits of having economic development in any area, right? Not just this area, mm-hmm. but economic development. If you put in 1,000 faculty or 1,000 people all together, mm-hmm. That will help our neighborhood. Maybe more stores may open up in the area. Maybe more restaurants may open up in the area.
You talked about Muslim ownership and investment in the area. What kinds of things would you like to see as a Muslim person and representing a congregation? What kind of investments, you can say generally for anybody and everybody, but also for Muslim investors? How could they strengthen the community and the neighborhood?
I think for Muslims the biggest concern is having a nice neighborhood to live in. We want the American dream, right? We want safety, prosperity, a house to own, but also in a nice neighborhood. And we also want it close to the mosque.
Do you have any feelings about what the issues might be?
Well, I think you do still see quite a bit of blight. I think there's concern about crime, especially property crime in that area. And then on Main Street, those businesses I think really struggle. They're really just barely holding on. A number of them, the smaller businesses that are on Main Street. Those are probably the main issues. Okay. I think the greatest positive associated with it is the symbolic nature of institutional investment in that urban core. I go back long enough to remember when downtown Binghamton there was very little activity, very little vitality, and the university created the downtown center, which is really not that big an impact in terms of dollars and cents and people, but it seemed to signal to the development community that, hey, this is a place that we can look at and invest in. And suddenly you started seeing student housing projects spring up, which represented, significant multi-million-dollar investments.